This one goes out to the Artcasters. Ooh, Artcasters! I say you're catching your spell, Artcasters. Catching your spell. Ooh, you're gonna cast that spell. Strike a hell. Whoa! Ooh. Hi, 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 hi.
All right, welcome back to the Artcasters. This is episode 466, and we have a returning guest on, and we're going to talk all about conventions and specifically, I guess, preparing for a convention. If you haven't done it, kind of what to expect, what you need to bring, that kind of thing. And we'll stay where it takes us. We may get into like actual table setup, all that, but I figured it'd be because it's kind of self-serving. I wanted to have Scott on the show because we're going to be doing Phoenix Fan Fusion coming up. And it's been a while since I've done it. As I guess I did it like the year before last, but I was at somebody else's booth just doing sketches and stuff. So it's been a while. So I just want to refamiliarize myself, and I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about. So having said that, we're going to do what we always do: go around the virtual room, introduce ourselves, tell everyone where they can find us online. So you are on my channel right now, so you can find all kinds of other cool stuff on this YouTube channel. You can find my retro reventifications, I guess I call them, where I take interesting stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and kind of reinvent it. I also have tons of comic making content going all the way back, I don't know, several years, a decade or so. So all kinds of content on here you can check out. Also I have my website, circworks.com, where you can get digital products to help you make comics. You can get my comic book, Young and Dead, Kids vs. Zombie Adventure Story. But on that, you might want to wait a couple weeks or so because I'll have the trade available pretty soon. So there's all that. And the other thing I want to share is kind of what we're talking about, and that is Phoenix Fan Fusion. Both Scott and I will both be there June 6th through the 8th at the Phoenix Convention Center. Hold on. Where is... okay, yeah. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, so, there I am right there. So, yeah, come out to Phoenix Fan Fusion. Come say hi to me, to Scott, to Keith, and a bunch of other awesome people. You can see the guest list of artists here. Tons of cool people. Come out and see us. That's all I got. What about you, Josh?
All right. So if you guys... we're in the Antelope Valley and you went to the transplant show, it went really well this Saturday. And if you're wondering what's transplants, it's a microbrewery. And what was the show? It was No Saboteurs. It was our first live show in a long time. And it was promoting this album. Boom! Right there. The sun eventually sets on everything. So make sure you go check it out. It's pretty awesome. It's free on Spotify, on all music streaming platforms. And the most solid thing you can do to support a musician is add it to your playlist on your streaming platform of choice and follow the artist. So follow No Saboteurs and check out the album. I'm really proud of it, and I think you guys will like it. If you like it, you can buy it on Apple Music and that kind of stuff. And then there's Jacob's Apartment, my graphic novel about two polar opposite roommates that, due to rough life circumstances, find themselves drawn together in a book that explores what purpose is, what meaning is, and how our childhood lives basically haunt our adult lives. So it's like if you took Ghost World and put it in a blender with... Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, and you like that flavor, you'd like Jacob's Apartment. And Two Stories, which is my graphic novel that tries to destigmatize hard conversations about mental illness. So check out those two graphic novels, but before you do anything, No Saboteurs, check out that album. It's pretty awesome. It's 12 songs, and again, like probably the best music I've ever made. So
did
with
anyone
my buddies.
take any video of that show?
Mine actually filmed the whole video, so I might upload it
That'd be
if
cool. I'd like to see
possible,
that.
because it would be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I should upload that. I'm going to add that on my list of things to do in my old man planner. I might be the last person in the universe that's using an actual planner.
I got a planner.
Yeah.
I've got a physical planner too.
But this thing I've lived and died by this year because that's how I got through college. And weirdly enough, I've tried like the apps and stuff like that. I like a real planner.
I use both. Best. Yeah, but
just nothing feels as good as physically crossing off something.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right. On to Scott Loss. Scott is our guest. He's been on a show a few times. He's also a co-host of the Making Comics podcast every Monday. So, Scott, what's going on in your world?
I am wrapping Second Shift Doorways Part 2. Second Shift is one of my 2 ongoing series that I do, Minimum Wage Superheroes, and my other book is Wanderers of Melisande. It's anthropomorphic dinosaurs versus humans, and you could find those at accidentalaliens.com. You could see it right there. And then if you want to follow me on social media, you go right there, at Scott Lost, and that's where all my stuff is. And that's what's going on.
And there should be a link that you can click on in the description as well. So awesome. So we're getting ready for Phoenix Fan Fusion, and I just thought it'd be fun or be worthwhile to kind of refamiliarize myself with kind of the convention and get you on the horn and maybe just hash out a few things and also include our audience, anyone who because a lot of people like myself, I kind of made the decision to stop doing cons before COVID, but it was like 2018. And then it was probably a good decision because I didn't re-up. And then a lot of people, I think everyone eventually kind of got, at least their space for whenever conventions started up. But other than smaller conventions, we've done ASCAP a couple of times and, stuff like that. And I've like I said, I Surprise Comics had a booth at Fan Fusion a couple years ago, and I just went there as kind of their featured artist and everything. But other than that, I haven't had my own booth there for a while. So I'm like, oh man, and when it's been so long that I used to have an Evernote, and I guess they switched things around because I haven't been on there because I used to keep all my notes and I had my checklist and everything on there. So I went on there to go look at the checklist, and now I guess they want you to pay for it. And I don't even know if my stuff's on there anymore. So, and then I did a search through my computer, couldn't find it, but I managed to kind of go through some notes and stuff on my phone, and I pulled up a pretty comprehensive list on things. And so I kind of thought we could go through the list, and that'll spark up some conversations on like when we mention kind of things you will want to bring and just to be prepared. So this is all about con prep, but I imagine if we get through this fairly quickly, we get on to tabling and just cons in general and things like that. Sound like a plan?
Sure.
All right. So I have, so I assume you got this too, but Phoenix Fan Fusion, they released their own exhibitor packing list. So I'll kind of list some of the stuff that they've got on their list, and I've got a kind of a bigger list. There will be some crossover, but I'll just quickly kind of go through their list. So they've got for your display hand cart. And you use like, it's from Trader Joe's. You know what? You left me one of those.
I did.
I couldn't drink it.
Did you not try it?
Oh yeah, that's right. You don't like beer.
I tried it.
Oh my god! It just tastes like chocolate. Did Jen drink it?
No. And she got mad because I poured it out. Because I didn't think she'd want it. But then she said she wanted it. So
and you know what they say about assuming.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
but yeah, the one that you had over at the Oso Brewery, I had a sip of that, and I like that.
That's really good.
That one I couldn't get into, but
I can't remember. I think it was like Mexican chocolate or something. I think that's what it was called. It was really good. Delicious. I liked it a lot.
But the cider I got from Trader Joe's, I didn't realize the one that was kind of it was like the brewery was like they were veterans or something. And so there was I think some of it was donated to veterans causes and things like that. But it was also a apple pie, like kind of like the one I had. It wasn't quite as good as the one I had on tap, but it was really good. So
yeah, that one.
And then I went
amazing.
back to get more, and I didn't see it. So, but yeah. So we'll see when you come down. what we can find.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine we're gonna end up at a brewery or two while we're there.
Yeah. So okay, so a little segue. So you use like so hand cart. You use like like a wagon or
Yeah, I got like a wagon, like those red wagons back in the day, but it's those foldable ones that you'll see everywhere.
Those are the
And
best.
they're the best, absolutely.
Okay.
So if you've been to conventions or the park, you've seen them. They're great. I think I got mine at Costco or a Big Five, something like that. They had a really good deal. But that thing has saved my life, man. I used to have this hand cart, and it was just it's such a cluster. It's like. And then you can only fit so much on it. The wagon, you can just stack. You can put a lot of weight on it.
That's the one that like folds into that smaller, like it's almost like like a large rectangle when you fold it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it has like a string right in the middle of the rectangle. When it's open,
I use the same one. I love that thing. You can get those, by the way, on Amazon for like $40. Like, Scott, if you're wanting those, and usually they'll do like next days on them.
Well,
so.
I have a hand cart, but mine's kind of, you can pull the end of it off and flip it so it's flat and put it back down so you can push it almost like a cart.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's probably what I'll use, and I'll just store it under my table. I think. Yeah.
Got it.
We'll see. And I'm hoping I can get everything in, because seriously, my old setup was. I mean, I had to make several trips. So
but I've seen your more modern setup. I mean, you've done ASCAP, like you said, and I think the setup you have.
That's kind of what I have now.
That's great.
Right. This is an 8-foot table. We have 6, so I've got a little less room. But I am on the end, so I'm going to put a little tiny small table there, and I'm going to take
being on the end is where it's at. Like you just, I'm all about that. If I can gain square footage anywhere I can, I'll do it. And so we just did WonderCon a few months back, and being on the end cap, I was able to I actually forgot. So being on the end cap, we had the ability to bring like a small table to kind of fill it up, make an elbow. And I completely forgot. And I was down in San Diego, it was up in LA, and that's where Keith is. So and he couldn't find his table, so I actually kind of made a makeshift table with my wagon. So I put my wagon right next to the table on the edge. I have a plastic bin in already, and then I have a piece of luggage, and I flip the luggage face down and flat. So like the back side of luggage usually has like plastic bars on it to make it sturdy. So I flipped that over. I had a black tablecloth. I threw the tablecloth over the whole thing, and I just put my portfolio on that. So wherever and however I can still space, I'll do it. And I have this other thing. It's like a grid wall, and you could build like grid towers or just like a wall out of it. And so I decided to do the wall on one side of the table, on my side of the table. I usually do conventions with Keith Foster. He's my podcast partner, and we're like convention buddies. So like we always table mates, like we always split tables. It's just easier for us. We have basically opposite fan bases, so we don't cannibalize from each other. Like we do share, but we don't poach. And so it's like a really good balance. So you just kind of figure out those table spaces out. But I think the last setup I saw of yours was really strong, and I actually like the setup I saw the year before too, both on ASCAF. And, both were different than each other, but I thought both were equally strong. Like going back to that photo, the only thing I would say you were missing is a backdrop dividing the wall. So like I have it's kind of like a photographer's banner that I put behind me, because if you are in a middle section like that where you have someone behind you, you need a dividing wall for their focus, the fan base, to be focused on you solely. And when you have an open space like that, they can see stuff going on behind you, and like you don't want that. You want them to be focused on you and what you're saying. So it definitely helps. Yeah,
and a lot of conventions, those are provided for you. They'll be provided at Phoenix, and I've got tons of those stands, because I used to kind of go crazy with convention setups. But I think the first ASCAP I did, I put a thing up, and then this year I was just like, I was in a rush, and I'm like, I don't want to bother with it. So, but I tend to agree with you. Like here's an earlier setup I had. This is before I stopped doing it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is
Wow, that's
huge.
that's a
back
lot of
wall.
work right there.
Yeah, and that's two artist alley tables, because I did a booth before. Here, I'll show you. So this is back when I had a booth, and I
Wow,
realized
look
it
at
was
that.
cheaper. I realized it was cheaper to do two artist alley tables, and you have about the same amount of space.
Hmm.
But one thing I wanted to mention, going back to what you said, how you kind of built that, you built the
Grid
table
wall.
out of your wagon.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, any way when you guys are thinking of your setup, any way you can reuse things, reuse your storage or whatever. Like if you see this radioactive kind of like case that's in the front, that
Yes.
thing
Uh
is
huh.
it's a cool display, but it also, I mean, it stores tons of stuff in there. It's like a nice big, it's like a snare drum case that I kind of retrofitted and made it look like a kind of, the thing from Back to the Future.
Hmm.
But so and that type of thing, like the so this is when I was going crazy. Like I built this whole table, so all that stuff you see on the front, it's supposed to look like a conveyor belt. So
Yeah, it
those are
does.
actually, it made the table bigger, like wider, which was cool.
Yeah.
And but they're like big, giant, heavy, things that I could stack them. I figured out a way to store my prints inside of them when I stack them.
Hmm.
So I'm always thinking about ways to save space, but still, I mean, that's what I used to deal with. That's why it would always take me like forever to kind of load up and set up and all that.
Yeah, I could see that. How do you get in and out of that thing? You have to crawl under?
Uh, there's a little. No, I think
He
there's
has
a
like
little,
a safety hatch.
there's a little space. There's a little space to walk through in the back corner there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
A
But
Batman
yeah.
type sliding pole would be
And
the
then there
ideal way.
one one year somebody came and they just sat on the table, and the
Oh,
whole,
what
like,
the
half
heck?
of it came tumbling down, and then they just booked it, and everyone's
Oh
like,
my
what?
God.
Yeah, it was like
What is wrong with people?
anyway. So yeah, so definitely, but
Convention etiquette: don't sit on people's booths. Like
yeah,
just
yeah,
as
yeah.
Don't put your
a
drink down
standard.
on the table.
Yeah, people
Don't
do
sit
that
on
all
the
the
booth.
time, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's sitting on somebody's booth is, yeah. But anyway,
Pretty
so
wild. Yeah.
okay, so I'll go back to, so we kind of talk about what to use to kind of bring stuff in. So depending on what you have, there are like for the ASCAP thing, I just borrowed, my girlfriend has like a folding hand truck that worked fine for that, because it's kind of a small show. But for what I'm doing now, like I said, the kind of the industrial kind of hand cart is what I think I'll be using. So there's that. The other thing that they're mentioning is a small toolkit. So I know I've asked to like borrow things, and you seem like you're pretty set up with things to bring, like as far as like adhesives and all that kind of stuff for setting up
Mhm.
and all that. One I used to bring like a whole toolbox, but then I realized that that stuff you can get like one of those Leatherman tools that's got like a little screwdriver, hammer, almost like a Swiss Army knife, more deluxe.
Mhm.
So I switched over to that. So that's kind of a good thing to bring. And I mean, you don't always need that kind of stuff, but scissors. That's probably what I borrow from you, I'm guessing. Scissors, cutters. It says tarps or blankets for overnight coverage. I don't know. Do you do anything like that, or what do you usually?
Yeah, I
do?
just kind of use what's on hand. I mean,
Yeah.
I just have my bins. I have my luggage. It has everything in it. So I have maybe 3 tablecloths. I have the photo backdrop thing I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And I got it from my family. They actually used to be videographers for weddings. And they're like, hey, I would ask them to borrow it all the time. And they're like, well, we're not doing it anymore. You could just have it. So they gave it to me, which is really cool. But they gave me like curtains. So like it looks fancy, like the backdrop. Yeah. And then so lately I haven't been using those curtains, but I've been using those curtains to just cover my stuff. Right, so if you have some kind of sheet, like it's good enough, And then you were talking about the Leatherman stuff, like unless your setup is crazy like yours was, like you just showed us.
Yeah, I probably won't need it.
You're probably not going to need it. The most you're going to need is a box cutter, some scissors, and some tape. And those are just handy overall. Like I use scissors all the time during the show and the box cutter all the time. Like you could have either or. But yeah, to have the tape is very useful because you don't know what you're going to need or if like your neighbor's going to need it. But yeah, there's just, I don't know. It's kind of like a simple thing. Like there's not too much that you need besides your product. your stands. Like, it's good to have stands, have the variety at your booth. So if you want to have your stuff flat, or if you want to have your stuff standing or hanging, another thing I would say is bring zip ties. Zip ties,
zip ties is on here. Mention rubber bands, paper clips, zip ties.
I like that this list is starting to be like if you wanted to take somebody hostage. It's like
some duct tape, a shovel, some fertilizer.
They mentioned garbage bags, which is good. I know they provide one.
That too, yeah, garbage bags for sure needed.
Ziploc bags, when you're cutting things up.
Wood saw.
A giant cooler,
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. They mentioned a stapler. I never bought one. Never had need for a stapler.
Staplers are great. Like if you have a staple gun, that is actually really great at a con too. If your tape's not working, it's not bad. But what are you going to be stapling? The conventions table? That'd be kind of rude, Yeah.
Be like, I paid the money. It's okay. I'm going to staple this. They're not going to know who did it.
Yeah. So they mentioned extension cords, power cord, but they don't really supply power. So you need some
sort of
alternative power source. Yeah. I would advise you not to if you can avoid it, because it's just these places charge an arm and a leg. Like
just bring a backup power bank, like a cheap power bank, like that'll be your best friend for your charging your
but
credit card processor and stuff.
You don't want to rent anything. You could go to the Walmart, buy a chair.
Yeah.
For I don't know, maybe $30 or something.
Oh, the rental things, man. That's like
$300.
Yeah, that's like getting the extras on your car when you buy from a dealer. That's where they make all their money. Like, do not pay for any of that stuff. They'll be like, by the way, an extra table is $500, and you're like, I could go buy a table for.
The power source thing, unless you're having some kind of elaborate setup, I haven't found that it's worth it personally. And I had a friend, he had this crazy device that he bought, and it was like almost like a fan, like it didn't blow out air, but the thing, it had something on it that like spun, and then as it spun, you could project your images onto it.
I've seen those before, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like the idea of it is super cool, but I was like, well, how'd it go? Because he was complaining like it took up a lot of space at the table, whatever. He didn't think it through. His wife bought it for him. She said it would help. It actually made him do worse. He said,
a lot of that
came
stuff,
by.
Yeah, like TVs monitors are another thing. It's like some people show themselves have monitors and stuff, and in most cases, people aren't going to pay attention to that.
No. So what he said happened was, it drew people's attention, but they were just talking about how cool it was, and they would just leave.
Right.
So it actually detracted from his table because all they were focusing on was this thing, as opposed to him drawing live. And that's how he usually gets his, work. Like he doesn't sell prints. He doesn't make comic books. He's an artist alley artist. He goes there to draw. And this device actually took away the focus of the whole thing he did. So he said it was his worst financial year he's ever had. And he just said, forget this thing. I'm never bringing it back.
Dude, if you ever want to have a display and all your main thing is selling sketches, what you should do is get a projector like teachers have, right? I'm always forgetting the brand, but like the overhead projector kind of thing. And then just, have a monitor up there. If you're going to spring for the electricity on that, that would be great, because then you could actually project what you're drawing live. Like that would be a good way to draw people in and keep it on your product if you were trying to sell stuff.
As long as you can get them to connect the fact that what they're seeing on the screen is what you're drawing right there.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to it sounds like what Scott was saying was that this artist, you have so
it's
much
like they're watching TV.
You're competing for eyes, and you don't want to with all these other people. But you don't want to compete with yourself. You don't want to compete with your display.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of really honing down what you're selling. Like, there's a lot of people that'll sell everything in the moon at their booth, and then they're like, I didn't sell any of my comics. And it's like, well, were you projecting yourself as a comic artist? Because they might have gone there and been like, oh, it's a guy who, like Scott used to have that issue with, I don't know, Scott, if you remember, but people used to think you were a store. You know, so they'd be like, "Oh, like where do I like who made these products?" And you're like, "No, I made everything." You know. Yeah. So I think simplifying people's expectations is not a bad idea.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a tough call because, I mean, I sell everything. So my booth is I sell.
It was pretty clear to me when I went to your booth. You're a comic artist, like because your
Yes.
prints are kind of in the back. Like the comics are kind of first and foremost. So it's
Yeah.
like it wasn't hard for me to figure out that you sell like your graphic novels are kind of your main bag, and then everything else is like ancillary extras. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, when it comes to setup, it's what you're trying to project as being the most important. And so you can sell the tchotchkes and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But you need to make sure your booth is focused on what you want people to focus on. And so yeah, that's having comics in the forefront, the trade paperbacks, all that stuff. That needs to be on the forefront of the table. And then, like Josh said, my backdrop is that's where all the prints are. They're behind me or they're off to the side, and that's for the people that are just there for that type of thing, not for the comic books.
Jim was mentioning Brody Mattio's setup. Yeah, it's amazing. He does it at
cardboard one.
Yeah, it's all cardboard. He like handmade everything out of cardboard, but it's kind of like it's a small world where the cardboard parts like move and stuff. So he's got like mechanisms like moving the different cardboard stuff, but it's like the whole thing is cardboard in his art. Rhodey's like convention setups, like, oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. If you ever check out Rhodey Mattio's stuff. Also, check out Pablo's Inferno, because that's a awesome comic by Rhodey.
I just saw the comments. Dylan asked if I live in Arizona. I actually live in San Diego. So I drive out there with Keith Foster. He does Kadoja, amongst other books. And so, yeah, we tag team it. We drive out there. We crash at one of our fine friends here that allow us the extra space. Scott is hooking it up this time, so we appreciate it. But yeah, it's cool. It's not too far of a drive. Me and Keith both have a tendency to do conventions that are surrounding states. So we do California conventions, Arizona, and Las Vegas. So it'll be cool to try to branch out maybe next year. But that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Yeah. So next on the list is Post-it notes, and one thing that I would say is to either Post-it notes or some kind of a sticker or something like that. But one thing that is helpful, and I'm sure you probably do this, Scott, but like to actually for your own benefit, because usually all your art, everything you have on the table is facing the attendees, So, and a lot of times, like, I forget how much everything is, and so I always make a separate price to put on the back, and only where I can see it. And sometimes I'll do that with Post-it notes. So I'm like, oh, what is my deal on that? And I can quickly look. And also, it lets you know when you see, if you label what it is in back of it. So like if it's like this comic is here, because when they're looking at it, you don't always see what they're looking at, and so that way you can say, oh, this is my comic or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea, especially for people covering you if you have to like step away or something. Like I said, I share a table with Keith, so we've tabled together so long that we kind of know what the deal is for each other. We know what like the specials are, the discounts you're giving, and so more or less. But then that would be really good for him. It's so he doesn't have to memorize it. I know how much everything costs at my table, but going off your last booth setup that we saw, that massive one, I could see why you would need price points on the back, because that's an insane
and there are a lot
of
of little things too. Back that old one, I had so many little laboratory products and everything because I was leaning hard into the mad science thing. Just so many. I had so many SKUs, but now it's a lot simpler to figure
so
all
many
that
different kinds of lube that you made. You gotta keep those price
I mean,
points
you
up
never
there.
know which application is going to be, needed.
Yeah.
That was one of them. Application. It was a special lube. It was apple scented.
Apple flavored, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why it would be flavored. You tell me.
I mean, hey, it's now it's a party. Gary said, I will be disappointed if Scott Lost does not mention how many beers as part of the prep. I would say Keith and I, we estimate per day. So like minimum 2 beers a day. So if it's a 3-day convention, that's 6 beers. Sometimes I want a third beer if it's going really bad. sometimes I want a third beer if it's going really good. So that's all part of it. So 3-day convention, we're looking at let's say 9 beers for me, 9 for Keith. I would say that's pretty right.
So you just get like a case each. You'll be good.
I know my
essentially.
booth is right catty corner to the Wild Bill Soda booth, and I think because I think I bought one of those cups a while ago. I think you can still refill it.
Oh shit! Well, you just need to bring a bottle of whiskey then,
Yeah.
or your flavored thing, and then
gin it,
cola and
gin and juice, man.
Yeah.
I want to keep my
represent
head
some
straight.
Cali over there.
I think I'll wait till afterwards, but anyway.
Yeah, it makes the day go by. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
Conventions are long. If you guys are out there and you haven't done conventions, sometimes they could be very long, and it helps the day go by. I mean, I think it'll be very difficult for me to start doing conventions by myself. Like, let's say, Keith just gets tired of doing convention, doesn't want to do it anymore. I would need to find somebody to do conventions with, because it's the idea of not having someone to talk to and like kind of talk you down from the ledge if it's going bad, or just to have the time go by. It helps so much,
I'll have my girlfriend there helping me out, which is good. So, and she'll be really good at selling stuff. She's way more of an extrovert than I am. So, all right. So we've got next we got measuring tape, which I think that's a good thing to bring, especially if you have some elaborate setup like me. But they offer you so much space and all this, and you want to
again. You also need to know how big the body is to fit in the bag. So measuring.
You're just gonna have to retitle the whole episode on how to get away with murder or something.
It's real simple. I think you guys are making it more complicated than it needs to be. You saw at the joint, because then that's the length. You know what I mean? That's it.
That's a fair point. You don't necessarily need a ruler. You can just use think about it. We're artists, right? We measure by heads.
Your femur is going to be the longest one, right? I think.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. That's a normal black duffel bag or trash bag. Hefty. Jim has a question for Mr. Lost. Do you or have you ever used the Slack method in your day-to-day life besides art? That is a good question. Have I used the Slack method? So for you guys that don't know what the Slack method is, it's
I've
essentially
talked about it before, but you're probably the one that mentioned it. You talk about it. So
so
you
it's
invented it.
whatever you feel like doing that day. In the art front. So it's whatever you feel like doing that day is going to be the fastest, probably the best thing you're going to draw that day. So you kind of essentially work where the heat is. If you feel like working on people, work on people, because you're just going to go into it like no problem, because that's what you're motivated to do. And on those rare occasions when you feel like working on backgrounds, do that, because for me, they don't come around all that often where I'm psyched about doing them. I do them because I have to. You have to do establishing shots. You got to fill the room up. But if you have days where you're interested in doing the backgrounds, tackle those and tackle them fast and hard and get as many done as you can. And then that way, by the end of the project, all that's left is, it's probably going to be the more difficult stuff. But if you are balancing it out like that, where you're kind of feeling, some days you're feeling the harder things, some days you're not, what you'll be left with at the end is more than likely going to be more difficult. But at the same time, by the end of your project, you're so motivated to finish that doesn't matter. You're going to burn through the harder stuff than you would at the beginning, because it's the beginning. You have, let's say 25 pages, you're on page 1 and you got a whole bunch of hard stuff to draw. You're not going to be very motivated because you have nothing under your belt to make you go, I see the finish line. You don't see the finish line. You're at the start. So that's what the Slack method is. Essentially creating where the heat is. I'm very, I guess I'm very meticulous with my day. So like I have things that I do at certain times. I do things in certain orders. And it's more so because I have Slack method my life, essentially. Like I have made my life into the most time efficient thing that it possibly can be. So if I do stuff out of order, it's kind of like errands that can stand to be done sooner than later or later than sooner. And I would say like those are the moving parts. But like everything else, it's kind of like I kind of have a routine that really works for me, and it's been tailor made that way. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I do too much switching around, but I am a flexible person beyond having everything kind of sorted. If something comes up, something comes up, and I roll with the punches, and I try to make things work as best as possible.
Yep. Yeah. And I've adopted a lot of that, at least for comics anyway, that method. So thank you for introducing me to it.
Yeah, man, I'm happy it's working for you.
Yeah.
I've had a few people contact me about it, and they use it and they love it. And so, yeah, if I could, do anything to help the art community any kind of way, it's just like it makes me feel great.
Yeah. All right. So we got pens, highlighters, Sharpies. So do you do sketches at cons or?
I do. I don't advertise it
Right.
because my booth is so insane. It like like your setup. It's like it's tough to carve out a spot to draw.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to do it in my lap. It's like I can't really do my best work like that. So I don't advertise it, but I will take commissions. And so then I'll go find a spot somewhere. I'll be like, I'll try to hunt down a table or something I can occupy, or I'll tell them, hey, are you here tomorrow? I'll do it, at night or something, like at someone's house, or start working it out that way.
Yeah, I don't typically do sketches at conventions, other than, like I said a couple years ago, because that's why I was brought there, was to do at somebody else's booth to do sketches.
Yeah.
So I get to me I could be wrong, but to me I think my time is better served selling my products and stuff. Now, if I was like a big name and I commanded a lot of money for sketches, in that case, and this is what a lot of industry pros do. I mean, when I consider myself a pro, but people who have big names because they've done stuff for Big Two comics or whatever. But if they can command a lot of money for their sketches, they'll just usually have somebody with them that's doing the selling, and then they're sketching the whole time. So that's kind of, depending on what kind of artist you are, where you're at, probably the way you'd approach it. To me, at a show like that, I want to be standing, I want to be up, I don't want to be down at my table looking at something. I want to be looking at the audience and trying to bring people in. But definitely, I would say, so if you want to bring art supplies, that's kind of up to you to do sketches, but definitely bring Sharpies, because people will want you to sign the books and stuff like that. And I usually have a black and then a silver, depending, so that way, no matter where I'm drawing on, what color a book or whatever, it'll show up.
Yeah, the Sharpies are huge. I've done a couple.
Don't draw
of
with
shows.
Sharpies though. Don't draw with Sharpies.
No, they are not archival. They will start to fade and turn a different color. It's going to suck for them, the fan. But yeah, I've done a couple of shows where I forgot the Sharpie, and it's just a huge cluster. And luckily, I had table mates next to me, or Keith brought something that I could use. So yeah, that's definitely a huge point. Sharpies.
Yeah. Okay. So tape is a big thing. And I would recommend this. This is my lifesaver right here, Gaffer's tape. This stuff just works great for everything. It's black, so it usually matches. I mean, my table stuff's always black or whatever, so it blends in pretty well. It's pretty strong. It's kind of like duct tape, but it's like I think it's like more of a cloth based tape.
Okay.
So, but that stuff's great. But then also another thing sometimes I'll use is like carpet tape. Like if I need a really heavy duty double stick tape, like to keep sometimes to make sure my tablecloth doesn't slip or anything, stuff like that. And then just regular double stick tape for your tags and things like that. They mentioned glue. I don't know if I've ever had to use glue or anything. Have you ever? No.
I think it might be worth mentioning too. A lot of what Scott is recommending is not the most necessarily like mobile, in the sense of like if you're flying. So your convention setup is also going to have to be really adaptable to like whether you're flying to the area or whether you're driving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in that case, I would recommend, if you're flying, and this is me just common sense wise, I haven't really done too many flying shows, but basically use whatever you can stuff in a suitcase.
Yeah.
And I like a set of suitcases that you can, the kind that you can put a suitcase within a suitcase.
Yes.
Because if you go with two big suitcases or one that's slightly smaller than the other, because if you do well, you'll sell out So you don't want to check that in an empty suitcase on the way back. If you can
Yeah.
put everything in the smaller suitcase, put it inside the bigger suitcase, and bring it back. So you're always trying to think of how to maximize, figure out what your limits are, figure out what's going to cost to ship stuff, and then you really want to tone it down. You don't want to go crazy or even kind of the stuff. I'm doing a lot of stuff that I would not do if I was local. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, one of my buddies, he does a lot of travel shows, and a trick he told me was stick your books on your carry-on.
Yes.
Because when you check a bag, it's limited to 50 pounds.
Right.
So, but your carry-on is not. So if you can stick some books in your bag, do it. So I thought that was a nice, clever little trick. We did that when we went to Seattle. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and never unless you're like a full like publishing operation, if you're going out of country, don't like that was an interesting one for me to figure out was like you basically are going to want to bring your books as luggage, because if you ship to the shows, you're talking about like crazy possible books being set aside like at like a port check kind of thing, which could be a nightmare for a convention. So yeah, bring what you're going to sell in your carry-on or in your just pay the fee and bring it on on the flight for sure.
Yeah
Depending how much stuff you got, like I've tabled next to artists that do travel shows, and they have giant, like Scott Circlin's case that you have, that metal case that you put stuff in. They had stuff like that for their gear.
Yes.
And it was because that's all they did. They were traveling convention artists. That's what they did for a living. So sometimes you bite the bullet and you check that stuff because it's what you need for shows. So in that case, you can bring the scissors and the box cutters and those things that you're not allowed in your carry-on. You check those. So it all works.
You got it.
Yeah. All right. So laptop and power cord. So again, you're probably not going to have power. A laptop or probably something even slimmer like an iPad or whatever.
I don't know, man. That stuff just seems
for reference, or I worry about it getting stolen too.
Yeah, it just seems so useless to me. One of my studio mates, she used to use that in her setup, and it's just images that scroll, and then I think there's a price point or something on one of them, and I'm just like, it's just taking up table space. It's not bringing anything.
Oh, I wasn't necessarily thinking for that. I was just thinking if you need it if you are doing sketches for reference, or maybe use it as part of your selling point with your square or something.
Or maybe
like that. I don't know.
you need to work on some comics during the show. Although I agree with like Scott and Scott on that. Like if you can try to be present, almost think of yourself as like a salesperson at your own retail shop.
100% what it is. We talk about this on the podcast. We talk about it in person all the time with Gary Hodges. It's like, Gary is a creator. He is the writer and the artist. So it's
when he's not in the gym, because Gary's real swole.
Right. So when writer Gary's working, he's not worried about artist Gary. And so like we have that same mentality when we're doing convention. So like going back to doing drawings at the show, like Scott, you were saying that you would rather be there and focused on the fan base and getting those sales because you're a salesman, Scott, that day. You're not the creator that day. You are, but you're not making things. You're there to sell the books. And so that's what you have to treat conventions as. And you have to figure out the best way to be the best salesperson you can. And it's hard when, I remember going to conventions as a kid and seeing artists with just their head down drawing.
Yeah, it was always a bummer.
It was and it wasn't. It's more nuanced than that. So like, if they never look up, that's the problem. Yeah. So I would see artists drawing and I would come to their table to look at their stuff and they would greet me and they would talk to me and that was perfectly fine. And I liked that, and they, some people would say, hey, I'm working on this commission, but if you have any questions, just let me know. But I'm just going to keep working on this in the meantime. And like, I can talk to you and draw at the same time. Now, not everyone said that every time, but then you can feel it was implied. Yeah. But then there was other people who would say nothing to you. Yeah. And they just go, hey, how you doing? And they just go back to drawing. And it's just kind of like, oh, well, then I don't think I'm going to spend any money here because you're not showing me any respect or like the want for me to be here. So then why would I waste?
And then you can be that person's bad story from a convention, right? Like, because it's such a small world. It's like I think that's the key is like try to make yourself a good story for that person, so they can be like, oh yeah, this guy's like the greatest. A good example, like Scott is working on a property. I don't know if you want to mention it yet, but and the artist who worked on that has been nothing but like supportive of my stuff like since I started conventioning. So when he's gonna have one of those characters in his comic, I was like instantly speaking well of that artist. Be that guy. Like be nice to people, so they have a good experience, And then also they might tell their friends like, hey, this artist like you've never heard of or whatever, like they're awesome. Like go by their booth, that's like that's currency.
Etiquette thing. Just be cool to people.
Yeah.
Be cool to people when
be
you're there.
Cool.
Your
exactly.
neighbors, introduce yourself to whoever your booth neighbors are, all that kind of stuff.
Wear sunglasses.
That goes a long way. And like that creator that Josh is talking about, it's Shannon Wheeler, and Shannon's character is Too Much Coffee Man. So Too Much Coffee Man.
I didn't think you were ready to mention that.
I didn't know if you were.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna launch the Kickstarter in July, or like either June, the last day of June, or like the second week of July or something like that. So it's coming.
I'll tell you why I'm such an advocate for Shannon. So I'm a young, like 20-something-year-old who just got submitted my stuff for the Xeric and got the Xeric, but I don't have the printed book. So I go to San Diego Comic-Con with a photocopied copy of Numb, my first comic that I ever made. And I hand it to people, and I already have it like pre-written on the back, like, hey, if you could provide pull quotes if you like this, email me and stuff like that. And Wheeler was one of the, 4 artists that like, I think Alex Robinson, Shannon Wheeler were like 2 of the few that actually provided me a pull quote. And not only that, like wrote back with supportive stuff and gave me advice on like printing and all that kind of stuff. And I was like an artist who, like again, you guys have been to cons. It's like you get a lot of free merch. And so to take the time to kind of do that with like somebody just handing you a zine, was like a real lifesaver. And I think honestly helped sell the book too. So like, and anytime I've met Shannon since, like he remembers me, he's like, how's it going? Like asks about stuff. And it's like that kind of thing goes a really long way. Cause again, I always want to support his work. Prior to that, I was a fan of his work, but just, like I said, be that artist, be the person who can be a good story, Yeah,
definitely. I mean, then you have like the opposite side of it, but you have like the John Burns
of
the world who, they're talented as all get out, but it's widely known he's a curmudgeon, he's a jerk off, and but it's like he's so talented, you're like, well, that's just who he is, and,
like I'm not expecting R. Crumb to be the kindest guy in the world if I meet him,
Right.
So but if he was, wouldn't that be cool? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like try to be that guy as long
shoot, who is it? Larry Hama. So Larry Hama is also a known curmudgeon, and so pretty well known. And so I heard about this, and he was at I think it was, I won't say the convention just in case he's going to be there again, and he's not going to hear this. But anyway, I saw him at a convention. He had a price sheet up for like drawings and whatever. And so I was asking him about like if he could draw my character, and he said yes. And I asked if I could use it for a cover, and his whole demeanor changed. And like he goes, well, that's a different price. And I'm like, oh, okay, how much is that price? Like, I'm just inquiring, you know what I mean? But like just the question made him angry. And so then I was like, well, how much is it for the cover? Or like, how much would it be for a cover piece? And he goes, I don't know, like $1,000. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, and so, and then just how he answered and stuff. It was like, he didn't want to do it. And I was like, all right, well, have a good day. And I left because it was like, I knew he didn't want to do it anyway. So I just kind of left him alone after that. But I gladly told my friends the story because I was like, oh, Larry Hama was a dick to me. And it was like, oh, was he? And it was funny because we know he's a dick. So it's just like, it wasn't a big deal. You know what I mean? I got what was advertised.
Yeah. But I think like being the guy who's not, building a reputation for being a dick usually is good in a really tiny industry, And the other thing is also just remember at cons, man, people know people. It's a real small world, the convention scene. So like, you could be being a jerk to somebody who's like Jim Lee's nephew or something. You know what I mean? Like, you never know who you're talking to,
I've heard stuff
Can
like
you
that
highlight
about...
Gary's last comment?
Oh, let's see.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah, I've heard stuff about Art Adams, but any interaction I've ever had with Art Adams, he was totally cool. So,
Yeah, that's the other thing. You also never know if you're catching somebody on like the worst day of their life or something, So, take it all with a grain of salt. But I'm just saying, like the one thing I've learned at the age I'm at is like the industry's small. A lot of people know a lot of people. Be nice.
Yeah. Very easy. Doesn't cost you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so up until now we've been talking about supplies for displays. Now we're going to get into some of the supplies that Phoenix recommends for selling things. So product priced and tagged. So that's a big one. You always don't make the people ask how much things are. You always, because they won't. People aren't going to ask. They'd just rather not buy it. Make sure every single thing you have is the price is displayed on that item.
I definitely co-sign that for sure. And I have fallen out of that. I used to have price tags on everything, and whatever the case was, I stopped doing it.
Oh,
but
really?
it is an amazing. No, it is definitely a good thing. Because you have to think about the fan bases that go to comic conventions. Most of the people there are introverts. They don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
They want to buy their stuff that they want to buy. They want to get in. They want to get out. They don't want a lot of interaction. And so definitely price points help. Something I do at conventions, and I think this can help the general you, is if you're starting out, look at booths that are near you, and like the busy ones. Look for the busy booths. See what they're doing. See what they got going on their booths, because that's when I discovered that I probably should have price points. Because I remember seeing this one booth that was like across and catty corner, and they always had at least 2 people there buying something at all times. And I was like, man, that booth is popping all the time. What's going on at that booth? And they had a bunch of mini prints, but everything was clearly priced. Like I could see their price points from across the aisle and like 3 booths down. So I was like, wow, so everything's really clear. And so it's kind of like you walk by, you see the price point, you see the items. Hey, those items are pretty cool for that price point. Let's go over. So it's just, it's such a great idea to have. I'm in the midst of redoing my price points and having them displayed, because it does make things a lot easier. And and then always have a deal. Like a deal is great. So
upsell deal. Yeah, I have on every single one of my items. There's an upsell deal where if you buy 2, you get the third one either free or half off or something like that. Or every single one of my items has an upsell thing.
Don't discount your stuff, and that's something I learned over the years. Is like, instead of, it's like, say they want 2 things from you. Don't make those 2 things cheaper. Throw in something for free. Mm-hmm. And then they think they're getting, oh, will I get something for free? Like I'll go, like for instance, one of my books, Wanderers of Melisande, there's 4 issues. I say, if you buy all 4 issues, I throw in you can take a bookmark, or you could take a button or a sticker, and they're like, oh, okay. And then so it's just, whatever it is, like a quarter or a dime or whatever the button or the sticker cost you, it's not much, but you're not losing money.
And that's like also, if whatever it is, make sure it's something you can afford to have as a loss leader, like that's
what
the
I
key.
do is for like my comic had like the 3D print. So I can go on Amazon and buy the 3D glasses, like tons of them for $10 for like 100 or something like that. And then, and a print costs less than $1. And so but it's got a novelty of it, so the perceived value is a lot more than what it actually cost me.
Yeah, and prints have a higher perceived value than what they
and
like.
Then the fact that it's a 3D print, which isn't something everyone has, and it's kind of like, oh, that's cool. Oh, so So that's something. But yeah, I agree with Scott on that. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Point of sale devices. So yeah, a Square reader or some kind of, you've got to have the ability to take credit cards. Yeah. So that's a must have.
There's great stuff for your phone. Square is, for me, is
I use Square. Yeah.
Square is the best. They have a tap feature, so you literally just tap their credit card to your phone. It's one of the easiest things in the world to do. They have a lot of different options on there. So like if I have different settings when I'm in Arizona for taxes to when I'm in California, so they're different taxes. So it's just like, what is Arizona, like 10?
Isn't it? Is it? It's like I said, it's been a while since I just.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like San Diego proper is 7.75.
Yeah.
If you go to certain areas, it's like 9.25, which is kind of crazy to me. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's like down the road.
Long Beach has kind of weird taxes too, city taxes. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you can set those. Like if you're working in a different area, you can set the sales tax price point, which is great.
Yeah.
And then if for whatever reason the credit card doesn't have a tap feature, you could just enter it by hand manually. It's super easy.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention on the pricing, just even if you have your prices on all the items, you still expect people are going to ask how much something is, because half the time people don't read it. It could be as clear as day, and people aren't.
Yeah, people are dumb.
People are dumb.
People are dumb.
Also, again, like, you can be the employee who's like, oh, it's right there, or you can be the guy who's like, oh, it's this much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're trying to
Scott
make
would
money.
not say people are dumb to the people who are dumb. Just so
No, you know why? Because I'm not dumb. You say shit about them when they leave, like any normal human would.
So your cell phone, which is basically everything from your calculator to everything. So which people typically aren't going to leave home without their cell phone, but like bring extra charger and power banks and things like that.
Power banks are huge.
I like the solar ones because usually the lights in the convention will keep those powered.
Oh, I've never used those.
And then so they won't go dead. So yeah.
I like using my phone also for my sales. I know I used to write it down.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have like the spreadsheet that I created. It had everything I had created on the spreadsheet. And so I would go, oh, I sold this, write tick marks next to them. So at the end of the show, I knew exactly what sold. And then like I remember one show I forgot it. I forgot the book. And I was like, crap. I was like, well, I have my phone. I'll just open up the notes app and I'll write it in there. I actually found that to be way easier because I can actually search the conventions by name in my notes section. And like, for instance, like I said, I just did WonderCon a few months back and I was able to track like, oh, how are my sales compared to the previous year and the year before that and the year before that, all in my phone. So like if you have
just the notes, or do you have like an app that kind of lets you
just
put like
just the notes
or something? Or,
just the notes. I mean, you can dictate how you want to lay it out and everything. And like I know my studio mate Travis, he uses it as well. And the way he does is far different than the way I do it. I do bare bones of like I'll put TC for trading card. I don't care who it is. I just know that a trading card sold. Like he'll write this character, you know what I mean? So like he's more specific. So where I found that's really doesn't matter to me. Like I'll do my issues, like my comic book sales. Those will be named, and like that's easy enough to do. But yeah, I find that to be, and then I can do per day on the same note, and it's super simple. You don't have to download anything new. If you got an iPhone, it already comes with your phone. I'm sure Android devices has something similar.
Yeah, to me, I like to keep I prefer like a list of all my inventory, and then I put hash marks just because I'm not that quick with my phone typing and stuff. And the idea is hopefully I'm busy enough where I'm not going to have a lot of time to sit there that I'll have another sale, and it's just a matter of boom, boom, checking it out.
Yeah, it gets tough. Those rapid fire sales, those are tough.
Yeah,
you got to have a steel trap, and I don't. Jim said, Have any of you ever had a shoplifter at your booth? And if so, did you recognize me? Jim is very funny.
Yeah, and I was gonna I'll get to that once we get to like the cash box and stuff like that.
Yeah, everyone at conventions has a rule of thumb, basically, to not serve Jim Lujan. Like that. You know, that's what
I
I've
mean-
subtly been implying by being nice at conventions.
I don't even know how he
Don't be
gets in
Jim.
there. He like lives in his car. I don't know how he's affording to go to conventions.
Well,
so.
it's usually the costumes that he wears, because generally, if you meet Luhan at a con, he's not going to be dressed as Jim. Like, it's just be too obvious for everybody. So.
Usually the Hamburglar.
Yeah, the Hamburglar, Grimace, you know, like the whole, usually McDonald's themed. Just be careful.
He's a criminal, so he primarily sticks to the Hamburglar.
Yeah.
So he has the pinstripe.
Yeah.
And he's stealing shit from booths. So
A good thing. What was the officer's name? Like the officer.
Big Mac.
Oh yeah, Big Mac. So like you could basically
I don't
dress as
remember.
that to ward him off. Is basically the only way it works. You know.
you guys remember Mac Tonight?
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember
The
that.
Moonhead
I do.
guy.
The Moonhead guy, and he sang
I remember
Big Mac
during-
Tonight.
Yeah, I remember during that era there was a Jason movie that came out. Or was it Jason? I think it was Jason. I think it was Jason Takes Manhattan. And so one of the Big Mac Tonight commercials was him playing a piano on the rooftop in New York. And then so my parents worked a lot at night. I would be home by myself. I, little kid and like under 10 or something, maybe around 10. And then so this commercial would come on and I'm like, oh, McDonald's. I was a chunky kid. I like McDonald's. Here's this commercial, right? And then, but one time I was watching, I'm like, is this? It was a Jason commercial because Jason Took Manhattan, so it had the similar style music to it, and it's like similar style shots, and like so I was just like freaking out, So anyway,
That would be a great horror movie, is using the Mac Tonight guy. He should be a.
They're doing it with all the public domain characters, like Mickey Mouse. They got a Mickey Mouse horror thing.
I had an art student once in at Laguna who did one of his final projects was making all of this McDonald's merch, like Happy Meal boxes, all of that, but it was all diabetes themed, and so it was like these monsters that were all like horrible byproducts of eating fast food. So it's like he had Grimace, but Grimace was like having like injections and like dripping with like slime, and it was great. He had I think one of the characters was made out of pink slime and stuff. It was great.
It sounds like something I would do on my channel.
Yeah, it's kind of like the gross foods thing. Yeah.
Was one of the toys like a severed purple toe? So it was
actually, he did
Grimace
do
was
that.
just a purple toe that got.
I don't think it was a toe, but it was like a limb. Yeah.
It's usually the feet or the toes that go first with the diabetes. So yeah.
All right, so on to the list. So we've got.
All right,
Sorry, I'm only here to derail, guys. I don't have a con coming up.
I had a much larger list, but I think we're probably not even going to through this small one.
Yeah.
Let's see. So bags for sold items. Do you usually have bags? I have before in the past, and I think I still have some. I might. It's kind of a nice thing to offer, but make sure it's economical for you.
Keith does. Keith has these black bags because he primarily just sells comic books. He doesn't really sell much of anything else, and like all of his stuff's pretty small. Like he'll have metal trading cards or bookmarks. Those are tiny, so they fit in these little black bags that he has. The only bags that I carry is the like 11 by 17 clear bags if I sell prints. So I will put prints in those, but beyond that, I don't really offer them because I know they're at a convention and I'm sure someone's selling supplies, so they can go buy bags and boards and stuff like that. And it's just
one
like a
thing that you can do,
cost.
and what I would, I mean, when I have, and I still think I have some, but I bought some like bright green bags that match the lab coat. And then I had like a rubber stamp, and I would stamp my information on it. Because sometimes when you sell a print, people don't know where they got that print or whatever. So if you are going to have a bag, it's nice to have your a stamp or something on there. Also include maybe a card or something that has your info or something in that.
I usually include a business card. I don't have a lot of physical cards left, but I usually save those for prints. And then all of my comics, which is a good practice for you guys out there, I have my social media in the credits section. Yeah. So like where it says like co-plot, art, whatever the hell else I do, under it, it'll say, in parentheses at Scott Lost. So I tell people that when they buy the book, and I'm like, if you like my stuff, you can flip to the credits page, and I'm like, you can see right here, this is my social media everywhere. So if you type this into whatever platform, you're going to find me. And then, so it makes it easy, And then, like, that's another thing for your branding purposes. I know this is kind of not exactly one-to-one what we're talking about, but if you want to have, like, the same handle everywhere because of this purpose of making it easier for people. Like, so if you had CircWorks at CircWorks on Instagram, and then you were like at CircWorks Scott at something else, you know what I mean?
Like,
and it's just like
always CircWorks. You know, which
I
is
mean,
good
it's great.
It's easy to get because no one else has that name, so I can usually get that for whatever. So that's something else when you're coming up with the name of whatever your company or whatever, to have something that
some asshole has Scott Lost at Gmail, and I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
I don't have it.
Really?
It's Luhan. He stole it from you at a convention.
I know, son of a bitch. Damn, Jim. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was like pretty early in the game. I went to look for it, and it was already taken. I've thought about emailing him and saying, how much do I have to give you to get this Gmail account? like, do you actually use this? Like, why do you have this? You know?
Yeah. Speaking of bags, now this is a little higher tier, I guess, but it's something that's effective that I noticed, and I don't know if I would invest in this, but if you're like, so there have you seen that Flex Comics booth before? They're like
I don't know.
It's a company called Flex Comics, and they do prints and stuff, and it's all like kind of workout stuff. It's like workout stuff for geeks. Like, so it'll be like Deadpool, but it'll be PULL, and it's like he's lifting weights and stuff like that, and all other stuff's kind of like that. But they had like it was almost like a backpack. I've seen other, I think Double Fine did this or whatever, but they have it's like a bag that you put over, and I think they sell them, but they sell them pretty reasonably. So people buy it, and then they'll put it on, and they'll walk around the convention, and it's basically like a big billboard for their booth, which is brilliant. So so in that case, if you can get something where people could, when they walk around it, they see your branding, that's not a bad idea as far as marketing wise. So
yeah, I mean, that's a different tax bracket than me. It's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I can't afford shit like that.
Right.
it's like I don't even buy plastic bags for them, Scott.
No. But I'm just throwing that out there because I thought that was clever. I always like
it is.
Little marketing.
Yeah, it's quite good. I remember hearing about a story. Shoot, I wish I could remember the character. But it was an indie creator. They had T-shirts made, and like, he was giving out free T-shirts, and it worked and they're like, I'll give you this T-shirt for free, but you have to wear it during the show today. And then they walk around with the shirt on, and it's free advertisement. And I'm just like, that's brilliant. I wish I had that kind of money to just burn. I mean, you're looking at conservatively $6 per that you're just throwing away. Whereas like, if you had someone a bookmark, you have the opportunity to sell them something, and that cost a dime. So it's just kind of like, you know, what's your budget at?
Demand companies like Kablam and Comics Wellspring, they do a thing where they'll like, I think you can buy a T-shirt on the cheap for them, but if you wear it at a convention and you take a picture of yourself at a convention in the T-shirt, then they'll give you a discount on your next order, which makes a lot of sense because that's their audience right there. So if you're wearing a T-shirt, you know, so I thought that was kind of clever as well. So it says business cards. Like I usually keep something like that. I don't really put them out on the table. I don't even put postcards out anymore because a lot of times that just gives people an out. Like if they're like, oh, I'm kind of interested. I want to make it seem like I'm interested, so I'm going to take your thing, but I'm not really interested. It's like, so I don't do that anymore. But I usually have them if they do ask for them. I'll give it to them.
Yeah, same. We don't display ours. We don't have them out. One year for Christmas, Keith actually gave me a dot card, which is really cool because you could program all of your social media on it. Has a QR code on it, so they scan the QR code and they have access to all your social media. And I would always joke about people exactly 100% accurate with what you're saying. People just looking for an out. Oh, well, do you have a business card? And what they're really saying to you is, I'm not interested in your book, but can I have 10 cents? And it's just like, no. So, you know, when he gave me that dot card, it was great because it's like, oh, I'm not losing money anymore for you to be able to walk away with a clear conscience, you know? So, and then the thing about the dot card, it kind of puts that on them too, because we've had it to where they ask for the card because it's clearly an out. And then we actually have this dot card. So if you want to scan this, you can have all of our social media. And a couple of times they're like, oh, it's okay. And then they walked away, and we just laughed because we know what they were doing. So
Yeah.
it was just like, yeah, you just wanted to take, 10 cents from me and walk off and feel good about yourself. So it's just like, whatever, man. Like, if you actually want my social media, then you can scan the doc card and I'll be there, for all of it. But
as far as giving away 10 cents, the one thing I do is I have little stickers made, and I make them myself, so I get them done pretty cheap. But to me, that's a good way to get people to the booth. Like, hey, you want a free sticker? And draw them in. And maybe they're interested, maybe they're not. But to me, that's a small price to pay for what I think is successful for me. So
absolutely, and that's when you can tackle them and drag them under your booth, and then
So
that's where the tape and the bags and the box cutter, all of those things come in handy at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
We get
booth signage and banners. All right. I mean, that's kind of you got to have something, like you said before, talking about before, whether it's one of those pop-up kind of banners or something else you designed yourself or whatever. But you want to create a nice display for everyone, let people know who you are. The one thing that it says on here, it says provided exhibitor sign, and this is Phoenix Fan Fusion, but it says provided exhibitor sign must be prominently displayed. They don't enforce that, do they? Because the first thing I'm going to do is cover that thing up.
I don't care.
They never did in the past, but it's in red here. So just
there is stuff that are in those guidelines.
Yeah.
We had an experience maybe 2 or 3 years ago at this point at San Diego Comic-Con. We got in, I think Tuesday to do our setup, because preview night was Wednesday. So you have the ability to go set up in small press or wherever. You have the ability to go set up early if you want to. And so we did. We set up on a Tuesday. Wednesday, I was actually late to the show. Like, I was actually taking the trolley with Keith and his wife. We stopped to eat first. We're like, it's preview night. I'm in small press. People aren't going to small press on preview night. That's not what they're looking for. And so I was okay with being late. Apparently, there's this whole hubbub about my booth. I had actually told my friend, can you go by my booth? I'm going to be late. Can you just throw something over it? Because I didn't cover it. Because I figured I'm going to be there before fans are. I don't really need to cover it. The only people that are going to be there are other industry people. They're not stealing my shit. So I asked my buddy to go cover the booth. He gets there and he tells me about like the ruckus that's going on with my booth setup. And he goes, dude, I don't know what's going on. Like, they're pretty upset about your booth. And I was like, oh crap. So I get over there. It's the people to the left of me and the people to the right of me. They're causing problems. And so I have to like diffuse the situation, which I can easily do. I'm bigger than most nerds. So like, they were just acting up and they're acting real tough. And then, so I straightened them out real quick in the nicest way possible. I talked very calm and I said, you don't know who I am. I was like, you don't know who I am. Number one. So don't speak to me like that. I don't appreciate it. And I'm like, and all you got to do is ask me if I'm doing something wrong, let me know and I'll adjust to it. I was like, you don't need to speak to me like that. And then like everyone calmed down like they should have. But the problem was there was someone to the right of the person to the right of me. Yeah. It was their first convention and they read all the rules and they were sticklers about the rules and they followed the rules to a T. And my booth banner was higher than everyone else's.
It's a booth Karen.
Yeah, it was 100%. It was a booth Karen, 100%. And so like, I was like, oh, is that a problem? And then like, I guess the convention people came over and because the guys to the left of me, they instantly became super cool. They were just like, you're right. I'm sorry. Those people got me worked up because they were complaining about your booth and they started complaining about us. And, and like we took it out on you and it's not right. And so like the guy was really cool. We're very cool now. Like we're always booth next to each other at San Diego. So we really like them. But he explained to me what was going on. And apparently they reported my booth to San Diego Comic-Con. And so San Diego Comic-Con came over and they were staring at it. And then like, I guess they were just like the people were over listening. And then they were like, so is this a problem or what? And they're like, we're deciding if it is or not. And then it wasn't. No one ever came back around. And not only was it not a problem
because there's like 100 other people doing the same thing.
Correct. That was the thing was.
Yeah.
The lady who was causing the ruckus, she apologized to me the last day. Like kind of. Yeah. But because me and her never had an interaction. So like there wasn't like a direct apology, but it was like we handled stuff really poorly when we first got here. This is our first convention. We're really stressed out. You know, we read all the rules and blah blah blah. And then I was like, I get it. I understand. I was like, you know, this isn't my first rodeo. I'm like, you know, for conventions, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So I'm like, so I put my booth high, and I'm like, if you look around, almost every booth has their banner really high.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not a problem. I'm like, no one cares. I'm like, we're small press. We're not.
Yeah, honestly,
you know
the kind
I mean?
of thing that will get you not invited back is being a total Karen at a convention. You know, it's like, just don't narc.
Yeah, it's like, why are you rocking the boat? Why are
Yeah.
you? They're busy enough trying to run a convention, and then they got you coming to bug them about a booth that's not even next to them.
Yeah.
But they just got a wild hair up their ass, and it's just like, just knock it off. And so I've seen them at the convention a couple times since then. They've been really nice, and they get it. You know, they get it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Then they've got they say that's what they have under selling things, and then after that for they say for you and others, and it says first aid kit with ibuprofen, acetaminophen, mints, gums. They say snacks right in here. Oh, bring snacks and drinks during load-in. Oh, they actually said that.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Look at
Okay,
that.
that's cool. That's
What
cool.
Keith had to ask when they started implementing this. Keith had to ask point blank to them. He goes, he basically was echoing what I was saying at the beginning of the episode was, we're paying to get in there, and you want us to pay an exorbitant amount of money for your expensive food. How does that even make sense? Like we're here for X amount of days.
I'm sure it's a convention center and not as much Phoenix Fan Fusion.
Correct. So
they are right in here. I mean, that's kind of cool that they actually mentioned that.
Because they were trying to tell him without telling him, and then Keith was just like kind of stuck to the point. And they were like, "Look, they don't check you during loading. Yeah. So the day before the show, like you come load early, they're not checking you then. Yeah. And then just like perfect. So I'm glad they're putting it out there.
Yeah, that's cool. Something on here that not too many. I'm surprised they even put it here, but this is something like an insider thing. I always tell people. It says floor mat. So if you like, for the most part, I like to stand, partially because my table display is kind of raised pretty high, and if I'm sitting, I'm going to be like this. So those floors after a long time can get pretty hard. So get like a nice one of those squishy kind of kitchen mats. And just bring it to something nice to stand on.
Go to a Ross or a whatever, one of those discount places. You can get a yoga mat. Yoga mats work really well too, so you can fold them in half, double them up, or whatever. Those are awesome.
It also says here closed-toed shoes for load-in, and it says change of shirt and socks. That's what they have. Let me go.
The list is a lot of common sense stuff. So
yeah.
Like, so don't run with scissors. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, we know.
Okay, I'm gonna go through my list, but I'm gonna kind of power through, and a lot of these are gonna repeat. But it just says tablecloths, so they're gonna provide you with something. But every once in a while, what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna have like a runner. Like I bought this Flora, this kind of real bright green to match kind of lab coats, and I think just at once in the middle section where I've got my cards, I'm gonna have like a runner there just to kind of give it some pop or something. But so things like that, just to kind of maybe separate yourself a little bit. Everyone is pretty much going to have an Artist Alley anyway is going to have black tablecloths, which I like. Yeah, it brings the focus on your stuff. But,
Phoenix Fan Fusion, they have a skirt on their table. You don't actually have a tablecloth, so you do need to bring your own.
Okay, and I've got tons of those. So tablecloths, display racks and stands. So again, you want stuff facing up and you want stuff facing flat, because the thing is, when people walk through, some people are going to kind of walk through with their head down, so that's why you want some stuff flat. Some people are going to walk by like this. Different people view things different ways. So always have different angles that people can see your stuff from. So,
again, just think about retail. Too, like when you walk into a Barnes and Noble, how are books being displayed? And you're gonna have things that are flat. You're gonna have things that are front faced. Like it's all about designing the space so when somebody approaches wherever they're looking, they're seeing you, and it's directing people to what you're trying to sell.
Think about the fan base too. introverts and extroverts mixed up. So the introverts have a tendency to keep their eyes down, so looking at flat stuff. Extroverts are looking all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you're making comics for nerds, just have them all flat on the table. Whereas if you're like me and it's all the cool kids, it's just always like front face. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just nerding around.
So
I'm being a nerd right now.
If you got original art, like a portfolio or a binder or something that can flip through, the thing that I usually bring now that I'm selling these wax packs is I've got like a little binder of what each one of those cards, a sample of each one of those cards looks like inside the wax pack.
Oh, cool.
Because otherwise they don't know what it is. So they can flip through those and they can see, oh, that's what this one looks like. Just one.
Oh, is it like a card chart kind of thing? Like
it's like the things you would use if you're collecting movie cards.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's great. They can see what they could potentially, like what they're going to get.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I can't wait to see how you display those, Scott. That's going to be fun.
Well, it's not going to be that different than I just built I had like one I made out of foam core, but I just went and made one out of masonite, so it's a little sturdier.
Nice.
But it's just basically stacks. It'll be stacks of like the cards and stuff that I'll throw up there.
You're so handy, man. You just make your stands. It's like I gotta find them online to buy.
Well, I do that too. Like but there's certain things that are so specific they don't really make. At least that I've seen. But
Scott, just one random idea. It's probably too late to do this now, but maybe for a future con, do blind bag packs of cards.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done stuff like that before. Like especially when I was doing my my science experiment type stuff. Yeah, but that's a blind. I mean, there used to be booths that's all they did with. They had these giant bag, like back when Loot Crate and all that stuff was.
Oh yeah, they still have them. You see them. It looks like the Mario Brothers like question box.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you see those places.
And like Free Comic Book Day, Surprise Comics did that too, and they sold out like that. They had their
oh my god, Battle Beast just came out, which is a Ryan Otley and Robert Kirkman book, and they had a blind bag where you could get different variants or blank covers or like special edition books that are like issue. They had issue 2. Like you get
oh really?
Yeah, issue 2 is already done, so they're like you can get issue 2 with like the special chromium cover. It's really cool. I think I bought 4 of those things on my own, and plus like I was like, oh, the standard cover, it's Ryan Otley. I like the standard cover. Let me buy this. And like I regretted buying it because I was like, I could have just bought another blind bag and ended up with that cover anyway, or got something potentially cooler. Blind bags. I'm not usually into them. But the thing they were offering made me kind of go like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. And I think with something like cards, like the way Scott sells cards and stuff, like that's that collector kind of base. So I think that might be worthwhile. Whereas like with like my indie comics, I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh man, this obscure artist I want to buy, But I always think of anything collectible, blind bags just come to mind because my son just like those blind toys. Like when he was little, it was like
you gave me an idea, and I immediately squashed it on my head because I was like, "Oh, I could do like a mystery wax pack thing," but I don't want to do that because then I think that would take away from people buying the ones they want because they're like, "Oh, I'll just get one because I'll get a mix."
That's true. That is true because then they're feeling more gambly rather than that's a good point.
Yeah. Let's see.
Like, cards in general, it is kind of, I didn't even think about it, but cards are blind bags. They
are.
Bought them as little kids and just were. It was a gamble of what you got.
Yeah, mine aren't, but because they're all the same. If you buy a
pack, yours is a set.
Yeah. But like when I display them online, I only show a few cards, and I've had people say, "Oh, I can't see what all the cards look like," and I'm like, "That's the point. That's the whole point. When you're opening, you get to see what they are." So yeah. So now I'm kind of a lot of this stuff I'm skipping over because we talked about it, but under like duct tape and gaffer's tape, zip ties, all that stuff. Another thing it mentions is Velcro straps. So Velcro, I use Velcro all the time. Get the real industrial strength stuff, like. The last big booth I had, basically what I did was I ran a length of like Velcro straps down, and I framed all my prints so they look really nice, and I put Velcro on the back, and then I just bump down, and they just hung down that strap. you know, and
That's really
it's
good.
so easy. Velcro is just so easy, and if you get that industrial strength stuff, I mean, it'll hold quite a bit. I'm using it for my display.
I'll
that
tell
I'm
you
working on now.
guys, the pin company I used to work for, and where I was like an art director and stuff, when we did like big trade shows, we had these like squares of kind of like it's almost like a felt fabric, and then we would wrap Velcro strips around the like the clasp of a keychain, or glue it on the back of like a pin that we broke off the thing, and you could just pop them on, and then just move them wherever you needed on these like big square felt things. It's Velcro. No lie, is just like awesome for that kind of thing. So if you have like merch that's solid merch, like keychains, pins, like lapel pins and stuff, that's a really easy way to kind of display and then be able to move items. Like if you're noticing sales are slow or something, and you want to try try out some other orders or something, you can quickly move them wherever you want. So yeah,
definitely. Okay, so let's see. Here's something that we didn't mention: hand sanitizer or wipes. I mean, it's always good. You don't want to get that con crud, so that might be something you want to bring.
Oh god, yeah, I actually got the con crud at WonderCon. I was laid out for a week. It was
you got. I was worried because I got it after ASCAP, and I was worried that you guys were going to get it too. But I guess you had to wait till the next convention to get it. So
yeah.
So it wasn't my.
I waited for the souped up version.
Yeah. Here's something that I didn't think of, but this is a good idea: is a lint roller, because you get stuff on your table. It might be good to have like a lint roller. Okay, of course, remember a lot of this stuff. If it's not totally necessary, if it's going to take up space, maybe forget about it. But if you have the space, probably not a bad idea. Definitely. Yeah.
I was gonna say too. Well, we already mentioned. Never mind. I was gonna say like a pocket knife or a box cutter is really good. So yeah.
Yeah, that's on here right here. So you'll get your lanyard and everything like that. Just make sure you don't forget that. Water. I usually bring a.
Oh, sorry.
What
water's huge.
I would say Dylan is asking what's that? I've never heard of that. Con crud is basically you get sick from the convention, and
because you're shaking so many hands and
it's like culmination of different types of germs that you're getting from all of these people, and so some of them might be sick in one way or another, so you're getting like combination of germs, and it's just so it's kind of like
the people who enjoy conventions the most are like viruses. Like if you think about it, that is a sweet spot to be if you're a virus. So keep that in mind, like when you go to a con.
Lots of coughing without covering their mouths. And,
and you're literally getting traffic, and then not just that. Like people are going to the booth, they're touching your stuff. They just touched like 20 other booths that have been touched a million times by people. It's like. Yeah, definitely bring like hand sanitizer. Bring emergency too. I would say.
Yeah, emergency. Great.
Take it like right after. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Corey, you should highlight that Corey comment. That's great.
Let's see. Well, I missed it. It moved. All right. Yes. All right. So one thing that I bring is like when I'm loading in, I'll bring a big
laser pointer,
gallon of water, or maybe even a couple, because you don't want to pay for that $8 bottle of water.
So, and you want to stay hydrated at a con, because I've been at enough cons. You will see people get dehydrated that are boothing, and it's like, especially if you're going to be drinking, drink some.
One thing that's really cool about Phoenix is they have like a mall cafeteria section.
The food court.
The food court, and so they have vending machines for
that food at the food court. Sorry, it's not that much more than the shitty food that you get at the just the burgers and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's way better. It's way better
quality. But they have soda fountains. So if you want ice and stuff, like you can just bring your cup with I'll drink a lot of water. So if you have your your water container or whatever, you could just go fill it up with ice and water at those, because they have water there as well. So pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm hoping my little my Wild Bill glass thing. If anyone's not familiar, there's this big. They have them at a bunch of different conventions, but it's this thing called Wild Bell, and they have all these sodas, and it's just fountain drinks, but they sell you like looks like the Moscow Mule mug, like a brat, whatever, like a mug.
It's like brass, yeah.
Like
and you'll
30
see them
bucks
because
or
they have like a
something
special
crazy like that.
straw. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super expensive, but if you buy one, I think you can take it to any convention. Like,
Yeah, and they're usually at WonderCon in California too,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
so you
Oh.
can literally be at like
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I did not know about that.
Oh,
You should highlight Gary's comment there.
He said, just remember everything you move in, you're gonna have to move out. Don't bring anything you're not moving in.
Yeah.
Unless you just chuck it like Gary does. Like Gary creates these amazing boards where it's kind of like he has these, he'll have each one of his issues like that he'll put in the rectangle, and it'll have a bubble that describes that issue. And so he builds these things, and they look amazing. And then after the show, he just snaps them in half and throws them in the trash. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I didn't know he does that.
Yeah, so if you do bring
it can't
something,
be that hard to carry that thing out. He doesn't come in with a lot of stuff, but yeah.
No, he doesn't.
No, I agree. Yeah.
That's the other option.
I do want to highlight. We kind of brushed over the business card thing, but you should have business cards, especially if you're starting a freelance career, because like I know that cons, like one byproduct I wasn't expecting when I was younger and I went to cons was I got a ton of freelance work from those. So like having that to hand out, but like Scott was saying, don't have them on your table, because I made that mistake like early cons, and you'll burn through so many business cards, and like you're giving a bunch of people you may not want like personally emailing you or calling you, like all your contact info. So like, but always have them on hand, because conventions, like one of the big advantages is networking, and especially if you're young and you're looking to like build a freelance career, you can like have times where like a publisher comes up to your table. I made a really good relationship with Deanna Schutz of Dark Horse through that, and we've exchanged emails for years. And she's given me like free editorial advice and stuff on books. And it's like, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just handed a business card when they asked, So it's like, you want to have that, there, especially if you're trying to like build your freelance base and stuff.
Nudes too. They're exchanging nudes as well.
Yeah. Definitely have your dick pics, just because that's the other exchange that happens all the time at cons.
It's like currency. Mm-hmm. You want to see Daniel Warren Johnson's dick? No,
yeah. The best thing you can do if like a publisher you've really been trying to work for comes up to your booth is just shoot them a dick pic, like immediately. That's the secret code.
Yeah. No, nothing lets them know better that you mean business.
Yeah.
Than one of those.
You're like, this is how much business I mean.
You want to get into business with me? And then you're arrested.
Peter brought up a good point we haven't mentioned, but I kind of thought this went without saying. But yeah, definitely inventory. You got to have your inventory, and that's kind of the hardest thing to determine how much to bring. And I always bring way too much, and I always hope that I'm going to sell out, and it doesn't always happen. So we'll see.
It's usually you either bring way too much, or you'll like my biggest fear. I don't think I've ever had one where I didn't bring too much, because my biggest nightmare is having a killer con and then you run out of books and you're like, crap, like, that brings me to a big piece of advice we didn't mention. Do not overstock your table. Like, if you have extra backup books, never keep them on the table. Always make it look like it's a little low rather than like plentiful, because like for some reason when people see a lot of books, they feel less of a need to buy. So never have you're not a Costco, and you don't want to give the impression that you're a Costco, because people will be like, well, maybe I'll come back, later, because there's like 1 billion of this book, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
as far as one of the best things I heard as far as like selling and like what you should bring or whatever, at the end of the day, they say the best thing is to sell is if you can leave the convention with just one of everything left, because then if you sold that last one, you're thinking, I could have sold more. But if you sell less than that, then you know that you haven't sold enough.
Yeah.
So the idea is to go with it, to get down to one copy left. That's the goal.
It's just a working shows. You figure out how much you need of stuff. Like I know how much to bring of all of my stuff now because I've done it for so long. It's just like I don't think I need more than 15 of anything, at my table. And then I do bring backups. But for the most part, that kind of covers me, for trades and stuff like I have another box that it's a box set. It has all of my second shift issues in this slipcase, and that's a way of me bringing another 10 sets. And honestly, when they buy the slipcase, I don't need to sign individually; it's already taken care of. But so having your stuff ready too. So I do a thing after every convention. I bring my box inside. I separate it, per issue because I need to know what I need to restock. And so that gives you a good idea of what you need per show. Your numbers are going to vary from mine. So, bring way too much at your first one, see how much you sold, adjust accordingly, bring a little bit more than that every time. And then, as that number starts to dwindle, you're doing better or you're doing the same or whatever the case is.
Yeah. And honestly, if you do sell out of stuff, don't beat yourself up. That's a good con. That's a good problem to have, Yeah.
Scott, what's your opinion on having a QR code there? Do you file that under the same thing as having an out for your customers, or?
No, it's honestly, that's great. I think displaying the QR code is a good idea. Like I said, I have that dot card, but honestly, if I had the QR code at the table, that would be even better, because people that actually want to see your stuff, they're automatically going to scan it without even asking you anything. And then you get out of that whole business card thing, because it's just right there. The business card's right there, and so, those are great.
And you're building fans there, because there's kind of, in my mind, at a con, you're serving 3 possible objectives, right? If you're a young artist and you want freelance, or even a seasoned artist and you want a lot of freelance work, so that's one thing. You're networking and getting potential clients. The number one thing is you're trying to sell your books if you're a cartoonist, right? So you're trying to sell your books. But the key thing is you're never going to sell enough books there to create a fan base that sustains you, right? But you can start making those fans that sustain you, at cons. So good guys who go to conventions, they'll have regulars who show up. And this is why I always tell people, if somebody says man, I ran out of money, I'll get it at the next con or something like that. Never belittle that, because sometimes it happens and they actually do come back at the next con. They're like, crap, good, I wanted to buy this last year. You want to have that outlet for them to follow you. So why would you make it hard, for them to follow your website or whatever? Because they might be at the con and then, a month later be looking through their con swag, and your swag's there and they buy your book. So that's why people give out free promotional material at conventions. It's not just a lark. It's that's how you start building fans,
Yeah. There's a couple other things on here I'll just go through real quick because we're at our past our 90 minutes here. But so your sales tax and seller's permit, that stuff you definitely got to, Phoenix requires it. Usually you got to show that. Yeah. So make sure you've got all that stuff in order. The other thing, this is kind of the same thing as the kind of the nice cushion, floor mat thing. It wouldn't hurt to bring a chair cushion, or something a little padded, because the chairs they're going to provide there are just going to be hard chairs, and those can get
basic folding chairs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think we kind of went through most of the stuff here. So
Scott, was it you that was recommending using a stool so you're sitting a little higher?
Yeah, I think I'm considering bringing that. I'd like to, because again, I got a stool that kind of it's fairly high, so it's going to keep me at eye level. And then what I just kind of do is kind of slide off it, and I'm still at eye level when people approach.
That's great.
So,
that's a really good suggestion. I might steal that if I con again. Yeah.
I've got an old one that folds up, which but I got a new really nice cushion one, but it doesn't fold up. So I'm thinking I might, maybe even the second day, I might even just wheel that in, maybe, because you can I can even put something on it, kind of push it in, or if it's not a problem, just wheel it in that first day. I don't know, but
I love it.
yeah. All right, Scott, anything you wanted to add? Anything we didn't touch on that you would recommend, or?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah, I think we covered all of the things. It seems like.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll help people out if you're considering.
Hold
on.
Change.
Yes.
Oh,
Bring
yeah, that
change.
was on my list, and I
Hit the
somehow
bank.
blasted through that. Yeah, I usually get like $100 worth of change, and I last time I got like a bunch of ones, and I realized I don't have anything that's less than $5. Everything's in increments of $5. So this time I won't get ones, but yeah, you want to get change and stuff.
Get a good mix.
People, yeah. So
yeah,
but
I do
usually,
like 320s, 210s, the rest 5s or something like that, or
Yeah.
I'll do like 5 ones because I do have like dollar trading cards.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if I bring about 10 ones, like I'm solid. Like I'll be good. So yeah, about $100 worth of change is really good. So
yeah, I'm glad you
turning
mentioned it. I don't know how I skipped over that, but that's on both the lists. So.
Yeah. Oh, and a
Right.
decent lockbox for your change.
Oh,
right?
and yeah, the other thing on that, here's I have a lockbox, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring like whether it's a fanny. I've got like a real inconspicuous. It's really thin. You don't even see it, but it's just like one of those things that you wear when you go to different countries so you don't get pickpocketed. Because if you do keep a cash box, make sure you don't set it directly under your table, because it's nothing for somebody to just reach under that little curtain, that skirt, and grab your cash or whatever.
Also,
So-
have a booth buddy or like really try to make friends with your neighbors too. That's always good.
walk in pairs to the bathroom.
Yeah,
So
and
that-
when you leave
yeah.
a con, realize like if you're carrying a change box, like you got,
Yeah.
some merch that would be worth
Yeah.
stealing there. So it's
Yeah.
like, just be cautious. Look look at your surroundings. Trust
Or
your
maybe bring the cash box, just keep it empty, and keep your cash on you, and then somebody, when you walk out with the cash box, somebody grabs your cash box, and then I guess you're out of cash box.
or handcuff it to your wrist.
Yeah, so then we'll just get back to hacking people's arms off with
Right.
the limbs. So
Exactly,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
where, as a conventioneer, you can use
Give them
all your
diabetes.
tools.
So we're gonna give them diabetes.
oh, I didn't
Then we're
see
gonna
your
cut off
note
their
here,
toes.
Scott. How long ago did you put that note in your
I don't know.
private note?
Who
Sorry
cares?
about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, I keep my
goodness.
doing conventions for so many years. I just started keeping it in my wallet. I just keep my money in my wallet.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world. You won't forget it. And if you're gonna get robbed, like you're gonna get robbed. But
Yep.
if you're holding a cash box, you're more robbable that way. But if you're just walking around, people aren't
Fair
just going
point.
up to random dudes and stealing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's close this thing out. Let's see, Josh. What do you want to mention, people, before we head out?
Yeah, so if you guys are hearing this and you're like, man, it's fun listening to people talk, but I want to listen to music while I work, listen to No Saboteurs. The sun eventually sets on everything. It's our latest album. It's really good. I do guitar and vocals on it and play bass and all sorts of other weird instruments, including a banjo on there. So you should check it out. It's good. It's actually pretty hardcore rock and roll. And I think you guys would enjoy it, and it's free if you stream it from pretty much any music streaming platform. I think Spotify is like the biggest one now, so just add it to your Spotify or wherever you get music. And then also check out Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories, my 2 graphic novels that are currently out. If you're one of the cool kids that's looking at the front face stuff, not the flat table stuff, you know what I mean? Because the cool kids read my comics. I'm just kidding. I'm a total nerd. And I make stuff for nerds. But check it out. You'll like it and enjoy it. Yeah, that's basically it for me.
All right, Scott. What about you? What do you want to let people know about?
You could find my band at the local shop. We're going to be playing. We're called the Righteous Handjobs.
That's a great band name.
Yeah, it's all priest.
It's a praise band.
It's all a former priest group.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They're just
yeah,
evangelicals in a band. Yeah.
yeah, the righteous hand jobs. It's great. You can find my stuff at accidentalaliens.com. Second Shift, Minimum Wage Superheroes, Wanderers of Milisanda, Anthropomorphic Dinosaurs versus Humans, and Astounding Adventures, which is anthology, superhero anthology. It has 3 stories in it. 2 of them are mine. One of it is Granite, and that's 2 teenagers caught in the middle of an alien invasion. And the art style on that is like a European bend. And then the other story I wrote and drew, it's called Paradise Hills. And that's like Studio Ghibli meets Pixar storytelling. So that's all over at accidentalaliens.com.
Yeah, and there's the link in the description for that. So let's see. Yeah, both of us, again, we will be at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Well, Scott and I will be at Phoenix Fan Fusion June 6th through the 8th. So come out and see us if you can. Yeah, and then and as far as me, you're on my channel. Check out what else is on this YouTube channel. Some cool stuff. I also have my website, circleworks.com. where you can go. I got digital products. I got wax packs. I got comics. I got all kinds of cool stuff there. Or you just go there and download the free Comic Maker Starter Kit, and that'll get you started on your making comics journey. So and then someday you'll be ready to go to a convention, and then you can go back to this video and check all that stuff out. Other than that, this show, the Artcasters, we do this show pretty much every single week. We have a different guest. Sometimes it can be on a different channel. It rotates between Josh's channel and my own channel. We have different topics, all that stuff. So if you want to know exactly who's going to be on the show, whose channel it's going to be on, all that stuff, just join our mailing list. We don't spam you or anything. The only thing we do is about at least hopefully 30 minutes before we go live, we'll send out an email to let you know where you can find the show. So you can join us live like all the fine folks in the chat here. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Oh, yeah.
Later.
Making Comics Podcast. Making Comics Podcast.
Yes.
I forgot.
I got the Making Comics Podcast. New episode every Monday. Stream it on or download it, or however you do it on,
Spotify,
Apple
Apple Podcast, all of the good things.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week.